Hi everyone and welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. Today we are doing a little quick mini tutorial as a follow-up to one of our crochet quick chats all about how you can transpose your favorite knit pattern into a crochet project. And so what I thought I would show you today is how to create the knit stitch using crochet. It's also known as the waistcoat stitch, and it's really pretty. It works up a beautiful fabric and it looks a lot like knitting. So for working the knit stitch, what's really important to remember is that you want to use a hook that's much larger than your yarn weight. So for example, if you're using a medium size 4, generally they're telling you anywhere between maybe a 5mm up to a 6mm hook. For this project, I am using a 6.5mm hook, also known as a K. For you tight crocheters out there, I would go up as high as an 8. And the reason being is when we're working on the knit stitch, we have to work into a snuggled part of that stitch, and it's really important that you create stitches that are loose and relaxed in order to do that, okay? So you definitely don't want to be crocheting tightly. So this is actually a little bit left over from a knit cardigan I just made. My first knit cardigan. I'm delving into knitting. And this is actually considered a bit of a bulky 5. It is the Rippling Wave Stripes yarn by Loops and Threads, and I have to say, it is divine. It just works up so beautiful and it's nice and soft. Love, love, love this yarn. Okay, so even though it's considered a bulky 5, it's not really that thick. So I've gone ahead and used the 6.5mm hook. So let's get started. Okay, so to do this stitch, there is no multiple count. So we're just going to begin with a slip knot. And you're going to chain however many chains you need for the length of the project that you're working on. So I'm just going to do a little swatch here. So I'm just going to do a few chains up. And again, the stitch count does not matter. I do want you to notice that as I stitch, see how loose and relaxed I am keeping these stitches. We cannot stress this enough for this particular stitch. You must be stitching a bit looser, okay? So I've just done a few chains there. Hopefully you can see that okay with the little detail running through that. So I'm just going to go ahead into the second chain from the hook here. I'm just going to insert some single crochets. So the single crochet is what this stitch is based on, okay? So even right away here, I want you to see I'm keeping it very, very relaxed. Super, super relaxed. We can't stress that enough. Okay, so I'm just coming up to my last one here. Now, there is a difference in working this stitch in the round as opposed to in a flat project, and I will go over that. So right now we're just working on it in a flat project, like maybe you're working on a blanket or a scarf or something like that. So if I take that out, you should be able to see, hopefully, that each of these stitches have a V that gets created. Okay, hopefully that black running through there doesn't confuse you. So let me see. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to use my darning needle. So see how these V's are forming there? So that essentially is the idea of what we're working into when working on this stitch. However, we have to, because this is a flat project, we are going to be turning our work over. So if I turn my work over here to the back of the single crochet, I want you to notice something, and that is that our V's are now upside down. Okay, so this V belongs to this stitch, this V belongs to this stitch. We are going to be inserting our hook into these V's. Okay, so normally when we'd work a stitch, we'd work right into the actual top of the stitch, but we're going to go down below here and we're going to insert into the V's, wherever these V's are forming. So you see there's like a little kind of a little ridge here It's not really, I guess you could call it the neck of this stitch. You're just going to nestle right in between there, and it comes out the front. So if it comes out the front, I want you to notice, whoops, I split my yarn there, that it will come out the front. Remember where the original V's are? Through the front there. Okay, so, my goodness, it's really windy outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is blowing around like crazy. Okay, so I've come to the end of my row, so I'm going to chain one, as I normally would do if I were working a single crochet, again, keeping it loose. I'm going to turn my work over. And now what I'm going to do is in the very first one, I'm just going to keep it uniform. So I'm just going to do a regular single crochet into the regular spot. So that's a single crochet there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I can work into that first upside down V there. So hopefully you can see that. See? Nice and loose, so it's giving me space. And then I'm going to insert my hook. Now I have to say, working the knit stitch is not something you can zip through because it's nestled right in there. So you've got to take some patience and time to insert your hook. So if I turn that over, yeah, the stitch came through the V. If you see that, the V of the previous row. Okay, so again, the next stitch sits here, and the upside down V is here. So let me just make sure that makes sense. I realize that there's this little black line running through this yarn here. So the next stitch we'd work into would be right there. So the neck here belongs here to that stitch, okay? And there is the upside down V. So my next stitch is going to be inserted through there, okay? So that's where I want to go. And this is why it's so important to stitch loosely, because see, that can already be a little bit snuggled there. So right about here, as I pull it through, I'm already keeping it relaxed and pull it through. Just like that, see? And now you've seen the V in the front. So I go into the next stitch, there's the stitch, there's the neck, and there's the upside down V's, or the two legs. Some people call those the legs. And I'm just gonna make sure I insert that. And if you're ever unsure that you went in the right spot, you wanna turn your work over. There you go. So you should be able to see that the V's are now sitting on top of each other, like that cool little knit effect. So I'm going to do that again. Here's the next stitch. Here's the upside down V. And when you're working on a flat project, you're always going to be working into the upside down V. Just like that. Okay, so V's into V's and V's into V's. Hopefully you can see that. Love that. So it's a really great way if you're not a knitter or it's too intimidating. Like I'm, a hardcore crocheter through and through. But in recent years, I've started to dabble in knitting, and I love the look, the knitted look of a really pretty knit project. This is really cool because you can crochet that same look. Okay. So that's what it looks like in a flat project. I'm going to show you now how the knit stitch is going to look in a round, working in the round. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is I will change yarn because I'm just worried that this little black detail running through it might not come through well on camera. So let's change that. Okay, so I'm just going to use some of this yarn I had used back at Christmas for our Christmas stocking. I just think it'll make things a little easier for us to see. Okay, so we're going to be working the knit stitch in the round now. And so we're going to begin the same. You'll start with your slip knot. And you're going to chain up the length or the circumference that you need for the project you're working on. Again, really loose. I cannot stress that enough. Nice and loose. Okay, so you just do the number of chains that you need. And of course, should do a couple more here. Okay, now I'm just going to find the very first chain and slip stitch. So this is common maybe for bags or hats, mittens. Okay, so we're in the round, and then we're going to proceed as we normally would. You're just going to go into each stitch, and actually maybe I'm going to work over that tail to get it out of the way. So this part is very familiar, hopefully, but as we do, you know, your single crochets into each stitch, what is the rule? The rule is you got to keep it really super duper relaxed. Okay, see? So you can see the V's of that stitch are forming there. So when you're working in the round, the V's are right side up because you're always facing the right side. When you're working in a flat project, you're always working into the upside down V's. So that might be a good way to remember it. So people like using this stitch also a lot if they're doing baskets because it's worked in the round and it just has this really gorgeous knit effect to it. Okay, so go ahead and do that. I'm just going to finish this round and then I'm going to meet back up with you when we're working into our V's. Okay, and I'm just at the end here, so I'm just going to slip stitch to join the round. There's our rounded project. So now you're always going to be working into the front of your work. So you can, hopefully you can really see those V's are coming through quite nicely. So I will chain one and then go back into that same stitch just to start off the first stitch there, okay? And actually, sometimes that happens when you've done the top of the chain one. So I actually will sometimes snuggle this other loop in that same stitch, which if I could have, I should have done the slip stitch into both of these, but that's okay. I'm gonna go back in. There we go. Nice and loose, so that's snuggled in. And see how it's creating its own V there? So now we're gonna find the next stitch, which is right here. And remember, the loop sits to the right. So you might think that this is an upside down V. It is not. The legs of this stitch, the loop sits there, and here is the V, or the two legs. So I want to go into there and just snuggle my way through. And that is why you want to keep it loose. And then loosely pull it up, see? Came through those V's and make a loop, see? So now you've created a V on top of a V, which is what gives it that beautiful knitted look, okay? We're gonna go into the next V. So our loop is here and our V is there. Don't worry if it looks like there's nowhere to go. You're just gonna insert your hook there and push it through to the back, and it will, if you help it kind of snuggle its way through, there you go. As long as it's coming back up through these two legs there, you're on the right track. You do not want to be going into that top space there, okay? You loop through, relaxed, okay? The next V is here, okay? So there we go through. We have to help it, you have to snuggle it through. And so again, tight crocheters, you will not like this stitch. If you can't find a way to loosen your gauge, it will prove to be very cumbersome. Okay, there we go. See, it came up through the V and pull through. So now you can really see that it's creating that beautiful knitted look. So that is how you would work it in the round. And the way we worked it in the flat project. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And I hope you have fun with this stitch. Baskets, pillows, blankets, scarves, hats, mittens. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So I hope you found that useful. It's basically using a super simple stitch like the single crochet and just being a little creative in where you're placing your hook. So I hope you found this useful. You've enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing the different creations you come up with your knit stitch. In the meantime, everyone, it's been so lovely having you come along. And if you enjoy some of our crochet tutorials or maybe some of our crochet quick chats, make sure you subscribe so that you never miss when we upload. Our regular tutorials are uploaded every Wednesday. And please do feel free to share any of our videos that you think someone else might find helpful. It is my absolute pleasure to share my crochet journey with you all, and I love having you come along for the ride. You can also, remember, find me on Instagram at The Stitch Sessions, and I always love it when people pop in, say hello, and show me some of the work they've created based on some of my designs. I love, love, love it. In any case, have an amazing day, everyone. Happy crocheting and take good care.